Good morning. Thank you for joining us for our December Benefit Specialist video conference. We have some good things on the agenda for you today. We did try to keep it short and sweet. We know everyone's really busy during the holidays. But before we get started, I do just want to give a couple of quick reminders. Do make sure that you are keeping up on your Wombat security training. I know there is a new one that is due December 31st. They do not take very long to complete, and they are very beneficial. So please make sure to take a few minutes, get in there, and get those completed. Also, if you happen to be on time study, the time analysis codes for this video conference are on the agenda that was sent out with the material, so you have those ready to go for you. And if you have any questions during the broadcast, please send them to me via instant message or email. We will put together a Q&A and send those out to the field after the broadcast is complete. That seems to be the best way that it has worked so far, so we'll continue doing that at this point. All right, so this morning we have Marianne Kurzman, and she is going to talk a little about SNAP and the SNAP Ed campaign. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Marianne. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Let's see, get my screen shared here. Okay, and go. Got that up? Okay. So I just wanted to go over and give you guys the details of this SNAP Ed campaign, that study that we did. In March, we sent out the pre-survey before we started the campaign, and in March we had 62 benefit specialists and supervisors respond, and then we did a follow-up in October to see the difference between the pre and post surveys. It was the same survey, and then in October we had 43 benefit specialists and supervisors respond to the survey. So in March, the first question was, do you know who your SNAP Ed educators are? And in March, we had 48% say no and 51% say yes. Then in October, we did have 79% say yes, they knew who their educators were, and only 20.9% did not know who their educators were. So we definitely saw improvement there. And then the next question, on a scale of 1 to 5, how familiar are you with the SNAP Ed in Wyoming? And in March is the dark purple, in October, so the post survey is in the light purple. And we did see a significant change from not very familiar at all to very familiar with the SNAP Ed program in Wyoming for the pre and post. So we definitely saw a good improvement there. And then the next question was, how often do you work or interact with the SNAP Ed educator in your county? And the first one is in March 2018. They did once per week, 2 to 3 times per month, once per month, every 2 to 3 months, or 2 to 3 times per year. And in March, we didn't have any contact once a week. And then October, we did have 2.3% was once per week, but the majority is still 2 to 3 times per year. But we did have increased contact with our educators, so we're glad with that. And then the next question, on scale of 1 to 5, how often do you refer SNAP Ed participants to your SNAP Ed educator? And in March, we had a pretty high percent of never, of 33.9%. And in October, it was down to 16%. So that's a great significance. And then also in March, the very often referrals was only 3.2%. And then in October for our post was 23%. So we did see significant changes for our referrals as well to the SNAP Ed program. And then also, on a scale of 1 to 5, how familiar are you with the Sensible Nutrition program? As this campaign was to connect the dots between the Sensible Nutrition program, that it is actually SNAP Ed. And that's what we determined in our pre and post, is that people were very familiar with what Sensible Nutrition was, but they were not very familiar that Sensible Nutrition actually is SNAP Ed. So we saw that change. And then on a scale of 1 to 5, how familiar are you with the relationship between SNAP, SNAP-Ed, and Sensible Nutrition Program, which I was just talking about? In March, most people were not familiar at all that it was SNAP-Ed and Sensible Nutrition were the same program, and it is connected to the SNAP benefits that we have. And then in October, we did see a significant increase that people are familiar that SNAP, SNAP-Ed, and Sensible Nutrition are connected. So we're excited to see those changes. So in summary, DFS specialists saw a 27.5% increase in knowing their SNAP-Ed educator. There was a 33.7% increase in the familiarity with SNAP-Ed in Wyoming. There was a 12.2% increase in referrals to the SNAP-Ed educators. And there was a 42.6% increase in familiarity with the relationship between the SNAP, SNAP-Ed, and Sensible Nutrition program. So the program was successful in the campaign to connect the dots. So our goal for 2018 federal fiscal year, which is October 1st through September 30th, is the federal fiscal year. So this is our goal for October 2017 through September of 2018 was a 5% increase of graduates from the DFS that we referred from DFS to the Sensible Nutrition program. And we did have a 5.1% increase in 2018. So we met our goal. So we're pretty excited that it was a successful campaign. We do want to just keep reminding everyone about the Sensible Nutrition program, and that is SNAP-Ed. Clients are not required to do this, but it is a great benefit to them to learn some nutrition education and budgeting and different cooking skills, because a lot of times our clients don't even know how to cook. So it's a good thing for them. The next steps, we're looking at doing some like success story videos that would be put together from our DFS clients, if they're willing to be put together by the Sensible Nutrition program. I know a lot of our offices and our field office has those digital photo frames that are put out by Sensible Nutrition. We're looking at doing some different updates on those photo frames. They haven't been updated in a while. I don't think they've been updated since they've been put in our offices. So I'm looking at possibly doing updates maybe twice a year to catch people's attentions. And if you guys have any other thoughts, feel free to send them my way on how to connect Sensible Nutrition to the SNAP program. And thank you for helping our clients. It does make a difference. And if you have any questions or ideas, you can contact me, and there is my information. Again, I just want to let you know that you guys do have the opportunities to take classes in your counties from your SNAP-Ed educators. It's a good idea, just because then you do learn what they actually are doing in those programs and how it helps our clients. They did this last year update their program, so it has changed. If you took them a while ago, that the lessons have changed. So, all right, that's all I have. Is there any questions, Val? I'm guessing not.
I don't have any questions yet, so if I do get any, I will forward those on to you. That's great news. I really think that the Sensible Nutrition program it's a great program. It's fun classes to take. Definitely, if you can get into those, do so. It is so much easier to make a referral for a program when you are very familiar with it, and when you can have that positive thought about how fun it was. You get to eat great food while you're there too, so you can't beat that. So thank you, Marianne.
All right, thank you, Val. You guys have a wonderful day.
Thanks. All right, next up we have Andy Barker, and she is going to be talking with us about our new notice format. Thank you, Andy.
Good morning, everyone. Some of you know, some of you don't know. I believe we've mentioned it a couple times, but I'll just remind you, Wyoming and the other states in our region, we participated in a notice project workshop with FNS, and FNS actually hired a vendor that went through all of our notices, testing them, and the other states as well, testing them, looking for things like readability, making sure that all the content that is, regulated to be in there is in there. Lots of states They have a little more wiggle room than we do as far as they can print their notices on different colored paper. They can bold words. They can, you know, have a little more white space, stuff like that. So really it was just to improve the readability of the notices while still making sure that they are compliant. Because what we do see is that clients really can't read some of the notices that we're sending out. And Wyoming's notices were actually written pretty high. Most of them scored college level, and that's just not really what we want. So when Wyoming participated, it was myself and Corinne Livers, Jessica Asbury came with us to represent the supervisors, and then we also had Bree with us so that she could be our support as far as, you know, the IT things that Epics can do or can't do. So I'm going to show you guys, we have 7 notices that are almost ready to go out. Bree is currently working on them. We're thinking, we were hoping that we would have them out by the 20th, so Thursday. Bree's testing this morning, and she's not gotten them all to be successful yet. So definitely by the end of the year we'll have them out, but I'll be letting you guys know for sure when they'll be implemented. So these are just the first 7. What we plan to do is revamp all the notices to kind of follow this format, and that includes SNAP and TANF, Power. And then for childcare, you know, if Eve is interested in doing this, because their notices look pretty similar, we can also do it. And that way the clients are pretty used to looking at their notices, where they need to go, that kind of stuff. So can everybody see my screen right now? Okay. So here is our first one. This first one is an automatic notice. So what I just really want to point out to you guys is, since Epics is pretty limited as far as, you know, we can't change our font, you know, it's all going to be in caps. We can't bold, we can't do kind of these headings. So we kind of manipulated it a little bit so that we could create some white space so that the clients can see. So as you can see here, we just have like a little intro, and every notice will have that. Then we have a heading, what you need to do. So this basically is going to spell out exactly what they need to do. And then we have a deadline, which I'm looking. For some reason, the deadline got off this one. So I'll have to find that, fix that one. So let's go to the recent one. It should be on here. Okay, there you go. So we've got our intro, your SNAP benefits, and as you can see, we changed the language a lot. So your SNAP benefits will stop July 31st. That was pretty common amongst the states as far as what's understandable to them. I believe in here we said that they were going to, you know, be terminated, and words like that are either really hard to understand or they're just intimidating, and that's not what we want. We want them to read the notices so that they understand what they need to do. So we have our section of what you need to do. This pretty much includes everything we had on the recert notice before. We just simplified the language and cut it down. So it should be easier to read, but it still also meets regulations of what we have to inform the clients to do. And then we also have our deadline section. So it's going to tell you basically when it has to be done. So in this section, I had added, if you want your benefits to be on time, we'd like you to apply by the 15th of the month. And we say don't wait. But then we also inform them that if you don't give us an application by the stop date listed, and this should actually say above, then your SNAP case will close. So the next one, we did both of our expedite notices. And the format that you guys are seeing, obviously that's not what you see in Epics. It's as close as I can get to what is going to be seen in when they're actually mailed out is what we were going for. So hopefully what you're seeing right now looks as close to what the client will see. So this is our expedite before the 15th. Again, not a ton has changed. It's just more blocking into these sections. Here on this notice, we did change. We were, I believe, putting on the notices like what they were getting for that partial first month, and then also putting what they would get otherwise. So we kept that in here. Epics is automatically going to populate, you know, what they're going to get that first month. We'll still calculate what they would get for the next month with no changes, and enter that in here. So that will be a section that you enter. Again, we have the section what you need to do, basically tell them what they need. And then on all the pen notices, we are adding this little disclaimer here. If we are asking for information that is for deduction purposes only, and you do not turn it in, your case can still be worked. So when we're free-forming in there and putting what we're requesting, you need to make sure that you are specifying what is needed for deduction purposes only. So that way the client can tell what absolutely has to be turned in and what does not. Again, this sentence basically says if you turn your information into us timely and we have no changes, this amount here is going to match this amount here. And it gives them the deadline, has to be in by the end of the month. We may reduce or stop your benefits if we don't receive it. So that's when we would obviously let it auto close. But this meets all the regulations, has everything in there, but it's just a little simplified and a little more organized. And so I won't run through the next expedite notice. It's, you know, it's pretty much the same. It's just the dates are a little different. And then we added a disclaimer that says your first and second month's benefits will be loaded at the same time on your EBT card, because we do find that clients don't understand that. So by the second month, they're calling and wondering where that second month is, and they don't understand that they actually already received that second month. But other than that, it is the same. This notice is our denial for failure to complete the application process. Ooh, nobody likes that. And I actually think I'm going to change this just to failure to provide and make another notice that is a failure to complete the application process, because they're two different things, right? So it doesn't necessarily always make sense. As you can see, we've added some more free form room for you guys. Hopefully that is sufficient. I believe that's 8 full lines. Again, we have the disclaimer for the deductions. And then it basically tells you, here's your deadline. If you provide us the information, your benefits go on your app date. If you provide it after this, the benefits will be prorated. And then here's the most famously requested, please revise this notice. This was the first one we focused on just because you guys have asked and asked and asked. So hopefully this is sufficient. I have to go back and count. I don't really know how many lines we added, but it should be 8 full lines, or rather 8.5 full lines. Again, we're just blocked in here. Here's what do I need to do. Here's your deadline. The due date will still automatically populate here. We have the disclaimer for the deductions. Obviously the app date will populate, all that good stuff. And then we also revise the NOMI, which is pretty simple, but as you guys can see, it's just really blocked out. So we have some white space so that the client really understands what they need to do. So those are our first 7. Hopefully I stopped screen sharing now. Did I stop screen sharing, or do we still see Val? Because I see Val. Okay. All right, is that better?
There we go.
Okay. So like I said, those are the first 7 that we did, and those are the ones that we did during the project. So my goal is really to just keep working on these until all the SNAP ones are good to go, and then I will probably work with Marianne and Georgia on getting the power ones to look pretty similar. And like I said, if Eve is interested in doing this for childcare, we can do that as well. And that way our clients should get pretty used to looking at the same type of format, finding the information that they need, and it's easier for them to read and also easier for us to use. So you guys have questions for me?
I don't have any that have come through yet.
Okay. Well, the only other thing I'd like to say really is just this was kind of a labor of love for me. I know Jessica really enjoyed doing it, and I think you know, Bree and Corinne would speak the same. Anything that we can do that makes your guys' processes more efficient, as well as something that's really beneficial to the client. This is the kind of stuff that we like to do. It's the kind of stuff that I really came up to the state office to do. So I'm pretty excited to get these rolled out to you guys. I will send out, I need to make a couple corrections on the mocks, but I'll send them out to you once I do that. Please feel free to let me know if you have some changes, and I'll probably give you until Friday to do that. And that's just because I need to make sure that Bree can get things in there, and I don't want her have to go in and out. So I'll send them out to you. If you have suggestions, let me know, and please have those to me by probably Friday morning. I would really appreciate it.
Right. Well, that sounds great. I'm excited about having more freeform in some of those notices. I think that's going to be fantastic. So, all right. I still don't see any questions. If I do have any come through, I will send them to you, Andy. Thank you. All right. So moving right along on the agenda, we're going to go ahead and jump into best estimates. Let me get my screen shared. Okay, so in this training, we're going to talk about best estimates, and really we're going to focus quite a bit on the initial month of benefits as well as the terminated income and converting income. Most of the information in this can be found in Combined Manual Section 904. So please continue to use the manual, have it up on your desktop on a regular basis, and really practice getting in there and searching for information. The more you do it, the faster you will get at finding what you need, which is what we want to see. So, and I also would like to say we have had really great participation with the Friday scavenger hunt for the Combined Manual, which has been super fun. So I appreciate that. Please continue to participate in that and send your answers to me, and you'll be put into the drawing for a Jeans Pass if you have the right answer, which everyone loves a Jeans Pass. So thank you for that. All right. So what are best estimates? Best estimate is the process used to determine anticipated gross monthly income. You should really do a fantastic interview when we're looking at income. Make sure that you are asking questions like, when did the client start and stop a job? How often are they paid? What is their hourly wage? Do they work shift differentials? And if so, what's the difference in pay, as well as what is the average number of hours that they work for the shift differential pay? A great tool that I think is not used as often as it could be is the interview toolkit. There are some really good examples of the questions that you want to ask during that interview. So take some time, print that up, and look it over. Make sure that you are doing a great interview and asking all those questions, and then transferring that information to the narrative as well. All right. So once you do that and you know what is the reflective income for their current and future circumstances, now you know what you're asking for. Are you asking for pay stubs? Are you asking for an employer statement? And when you do receive that verification in, do not be afraid to follow up. We really want to pay very close attention to detail on the pay stubs. Make sure that everything is adding up to what you were told in the interview and what is also on the application. And if anything is questionable at all, pick up the phone and call the client, call the employer, and get those questions answered, get that information clarified. All right, make sure that during the interview, you are also discussing the type of verification that you would like to see back. If they have a long pay history, ask for the pay stubs. You have more information on that pay stub. You can look at all the different pays, if there's a raise, if what their hours were, if this paycheck was short, maybe they didn't work as many hours as they normally do. You just have a lot more information at your disposal so you can get a better picture of what's going on with that. But let your client know that that's what you would like to see back. If they haven't been at that job long enough to have a good history, or if there's been a change, if they've had a raise or their hours have increased or decreased, ask for the employer statement and make sure that you're letting them know what it is that you would like to see back, and they know what it is that they're bringing back. So, and then make sure that that is what you put into your pen notice as well, and narrate that very well. Okay. All right. So calculating income in the initial month of application. You need to look at the source of income and determine if a paycheck has been received for each scheduled pay period. That's each scheduled day that that employer pays. This is kind of a magic question. If yes, they will receive a paycheck on every scheduled pay date in that month, we will average and convert that income. If no, it's a new job, they won't receive a pay for every scheduled pay period in that month, then we're going to just use the actuals. So I call that the magic question. Will they receive a paycheck on every scheduled pay date for the initial month of application? And that will tell you if you're going to average and convert or just add them together and use the actuals. All right. One situation that we see happen is a wage increase. So how do you handle that? So our first example is we have a client who works 40 hours a week and the regularly scheduled pay dates are on a weekly basis. The individual receives pay on the first and second pay dates of the month, earning $320 for each of those pay dates. It's $8 an hour at 40 hours a week for the $320 a week. The client receives an hourly rate increase to $8.25, and that's reflected on the third and fourth paychecks. So that is the $8.25 an hour times 40 hours for $330 per week. So our best estimate for the month of application. First, we want to ask that magic question. Will this individual receive a paycheck on every scheduled pay date that month? The answer for this one is yes, they will. So we have our first check at $320, our second check at $320, the third check at $330, and the fourth check at $330. So we're going to add all of those up. That totals $1,300. Divide that by the number of paychecks that we have. We have 4, which gives us $325. And now we're going to use our weekly conversion because this individual is paid weekly. That's times 4.3, which gives us $1,397.50. That's our best estimate for the month of application. Now, when we roll into that second month and we're looking at the ongoing best estimate, we know now they're making the $8.25 an hour. So the $8.25 times 40 hours gives us the $330. Get my little pointer here. Sometimes I'm lost without it. So that gives us $330 a week for the gross. Multiply that by our 4.3 weekly conversion, which gives us $1,419 for the ongoing best estimate. All right, so another example, a new application with a new hire. Client is in to apply for SNAP benefits on September 7th. Client started a new job on August 24th. Client is paid bi-weekly and will receive her first check on September 3rd in the amount of $258. Per the employer statement, client works 40 hours per week and is paid $8 per hour. So we are going to look at the September income, and then we're also going to look at the October and ongoing income. So we know that that September 3rd paycheck is $258. That's from the employer statement. In doing the best estimate based on that employer statement, we also know that the September 17th check is going to be for 80 hours. That's because paid bi-weekly. So 40 hours a week, 80 hours on that paycheck at $8 an hour, which totals $640. So our best estimate for September benefits is going to be $258 for the first check plus $640 for the second check, which gives us $898. Divide that by the 2 paychecks we're using, which is $449, and multiply that by our bi-weekly conversion, which is 2.15, and that gives us $965.35. We are averaging converting that for the initial month because this individual will receive a paycheck on every scheduled pay date. So when we roll that into the next month and we're looking at our ongoing best estimate, we're going to use 40 hours a week at $8 an hour times 4.3 for a best estimate of $13.76. So, and the reason I did 4.3 on this one is because I'm working off of the employer statement, which the employer statement is mostly written looking at weekly. What is the weekly number of hours, the hourly rate of pay? So for me, it's easiest to go the weekly pay times 4.3. If I were to do this on a bi-weekly basis, because that's how often this person is paid, and I did 80 hours at $8 an hour times 2.15, it's going to come out to be the same number. So don't let that confuse you that this person's paid bi-weekly and yet I use the weekly conversion there. Okay. Another situation that we come across quite often is fluctuating hours. A lot of individuals do not work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and always have 40 hours a week. It's usually, 25 to 30 hours or 20 to 25 hours. So how do we look at that fluctuating hours pay? If the applicant's work schedule varies and the employer states that they work an average of 25 to 30 hours per week, we use the midpoint to determine that best estimate. So our example is Cindy. Her employer states that she works an average of 20 to 25 hours per week at $8 per hour and is paid weekly. So we're going to use the midpoint from the 20 to 25. That's going to give us 22.5 hours. So our best estimate for this is going to be 22.5 hours a week at $8 an hour times the weekly conversion of 4.3, which gives us our best estimate of $774. All right, another thing that we see pretty often is wages and tips. So how do we look at that income? Step by step, really. It's like the power training that we had. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? So we start with the wages. We'll do a calculation for the wages, and then we'll do a calculation for the tips, and we can add those together. So Cassie is a waitress at a local restaurant. Her employer states that she makes $4.25 per hour. She works 20 to 25 hours a week, so we also have fluctuating hours in this one, and is paid bi-weekly. The employer also states that Cassie averages $100 per week in tips. So our best estimate calculation will start with our hourly wage best estimate. That is the $4.25 an hour times the midpoint of her fluctuating hours, which is 22.5 hours a week, times 4.3 weeks is $4.1118. Tips, we do that calculation, $100 a week times 4.3, which gives us $4.30. And then we just add those together for our total best estimate of $841.18. So it's really just step by step, and it'll get you to the correct answer. All right. Terminated income, how do we look at that? Income is not considered terminated for us until the client does not receive a check for all scheduled pay periods in a month. So example on this one, client is paid every Wednesday. In the month of August, he receives the following checks: August 1st for $350, August 8th for $350, August 15th for $350, August 22nd for $350, and August 29th for $348. The client's last day of work was August 29th, and he will receive his last check of $343 on September 5th. Client has an ongoing SNAP case and reports and provides verification of that change on August 30th. So we have a lot of information in this one, which is kind of how things come to you very often. So we have to sift through this and figure out, okay, what is pertinent and what do we need out of this? So when we're looking at all of this, this is an ongoing case. It is a reported change. The change is reported to us on August 30th. So we're looking at September's income. So what we need to pull out of this example is, what will this individual be paid in September? They're going to get the final paycheck of $343 on September 5th. That's the only check that they're getting in September. So we will use that actual for $343 when we go in and update this case for the month of September. All right, and then if we roll it into October, if their certification period is still ongoing, that will be the month where there is $0 income. Take a look at, I have, oh, okay. I had an instant message. So, all right. All right, so we're going to do some examples for terminated income. First one, client Jane Stone is paid twice per month on the 1st and the 15th. Jane has an ongoing SNAP case. Jane turns in an employer statement on August 29th that shows her last day of work at the storage shack was August 29th, and that she will get a check on September 1st for $988. And her last check will be for $227 on September 15th. So we want to ask, will Jane receive a paycheck for every scheduled pay date in the terminated month of income? If she does, it's kind of like that initial month. That's our magic question. Then we know we will average and convert. If she doesn't receive a check on every scheduled pay date in that month, we're going to use the actuals. So in this case, for the month of September, Jane is going to get a paycheck for each scheduled pay period, so we must convert her income. So we have the $988 from the September 1st check, plus the $227 from the September 15th check. That gives us $1,215. We divide that by the 2 checks we have, gives us $607.50, and then multiply by our conversion. Jane's paid twice a month, so our conversion is 2, which gives us $1,215. If we're dividing by 2 and multiplying by 2, we come up with the same number. But I wanted to show working through those steps all the way through for our best estimate calculation. So our total best estimate for the month of September for Jane is $1,215. When we roll that case into October, we'll use 0, as that is when the income is actually considered terminated. All right, another example of terminated income. Client Jerry Taylor is paid every other week. For September, the scheduled pay periods are on the 3rd and the 17th. Jerry receives a check for $600 on the 3rd and $725 on the 17th. Jerry is fired from his job on September 23rd and is given final pay of $1,250 on that same day. Jerry's in to apply for benefits on September 24th. So in this situation, and this does sometimes happen, he has the regularly scheduled paychecks, and then the employer decided to go ahead and pay out his final paycheck. So it's kind of like an extra check in the month of September. They'll do that sometimes to get it off the books and things like that. So Jerry has his regularly scheduled paychecks for this month, and then he has an extra check that he wouldn't normally have received. How do we treat that? So it's similar to the tips. It's one step at a time, one bite at a time. So we will do the best estimate on the 2 regularly scheduled paychecks, and then we will add that extra check to that for this month. So his 2 regularly scheduled paychecks are $600 plus the $725. That gives us $1,325. We divide that by 2, which gives us $662.50. He's paid biweekly, so we're going to multiply that by the biweekly conversion of 2.15, which gives us $1,424.38. Now we're going to add that extra check, his final paycheck, to that. That gives us $2,674.38. So that's our total best estimate for the month of September for Jerry. In October, he will have $0 income projected. So we'll roll that case into October, and there will be $0 for that. So similar to the tips, just going to do the regular wages and then add that bonus. I call it a bonus check. It's a final check. It's just extra income that he's receiving that month. Okay, using an employer statement versus actual wage history. If a client comes in and has a reflective pay history with their employer, request that 30 to 60-day pay history or pay stubs. That's what you would like to see. The actual pay history allows us to check to see if that client is working part-time or full-time or a combination. You can also check the hourly rate for raises, any bonuses, holiday pay, shift differential, all of that good stuff. So it's most beneficial to you to see that wage history. However, if a client is unable to provide the 30 to 60-day pay history and turns in the front of the employer statement, can the case be denied because they didn't give us what we really wanted? No, as long as that client states that what is on the front page of the employer statement is reflective, then we can use this. Make sure you put that in your narrative as well, that you spoke to them about the employer statement, that the client states the information that the employer filled out is reflective, that is what they're working, and this is why you're using it. Good narrative goes a very long way. So, and there's just a little reminder that there are circumstances where we can use longer than a 60-day history. That's self-employment income and looking at child support income. But for wages, cannot go over the 60 days. All right, so front page of the employer statement, which I believe you are all familiar with. You just want to go through it very carefully, just like the pay stubs, just like the bank statements. We really want to pay close attention to detail. Make sure that what is completed on this by the employer is adding up, that it all makes sense. I've seen a lot where the employer doesn't fill in how many hours someone is working up on number 9 for fluctuating hours, but then they'll put it down here, what's the average number of hours worked per week, not realizing that this is actually talking about shift differential and hours that they receive as shift differential pay. And so I've seen benefit specialists use that as this is the number of hours this individual is working. Well, that's conflicting information. So we need to follow up on that, call the employer, verify all of this information, document it really well, and then you'll have the correct info to come up with the correct best estimate. So really go through this with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that it's all completed correctly. A lot of employers either don't know how to fill it out or they're in a hurry, and so they just fill things in really quickly and don't really pay attention to what it says. So make sure that you are paying attention to that. And the same thing with the second page. If they do fill in the work history on this, I've seen a number of times where it's just, the numbers are just not adding up. They say they're working this many hours at regular wages, and yet the regular gross wage number isn't what that should total. So don't just take it, at face value. Go through and double check, make sure that it is completed correctly and that things are adding up. All right, so we have a few more examples for you. This one, our client Frank Jones turns in an employer statement while turning in his application for recertification for November benefits. The front of the employer statement indicates that Frank works 35 to 40 hours. His rate of pay is $10 per hour, and he is paid on the 5th and 20th of every month. The employer has also completed the back of the employer statement and has listed Frank's earnings for the last 2 months on it. The following is listed as his income. September 5th, Frank grossed $700 for 70 hours worked. September 20th, $720 for 72 hours worked. October 5th, $480 for 48 hours worked. And October 20th, $700 for 70 hours worked. So the first thing that I'm going to do when I look at those numbers is I'm going to say, hey, what's going on with that October 5th paycheck? Why is it so much lower than the other 3? The other 3 are pretty similar. We have 2 $700 checks and a $720. And then October 5th is considerably lower. So before I even look at crunching numbers, I want to contact Frank and ask him what happened on the October 5th check. Why is it so much lower than the others? When I do that, Frank tells me that he missed a lot of work because his son was sick. He indicates that is not reflective of his future earnings. And we need to document that conversation in the narrative. Because that check is not reflective of his future earnings, we're going to completely disregard that check. We're not going to use it for his best estimate. So we'll use the other three. So we have the $700 check, the $720 check, and the third $700 check. That totals $2120. We'll divide that by the 3 checks that we've used, which gives us $706.67. Multiply that by 2 because he's paid twice a month, and that gives us a total best estimate of $1413.34. So this is an example of really looking at the information that you've been given and asking questions about anything that is confusing or conflicting before you even start crunching numbers. What we don't want to do is just get in the habit of highlighting the gross income on the paychecks and rolling with it. We want to look at the details, question everything. All right, our next example. Client Clara Clarkson is in to apply for SNAP benefits on October 16th. Her application is also dated that same day. Clara's only income is unemployment benefits. She has been receiving them for 11 months and they are about to expire. Her weekly unemployment benefit amount is $237 and her pay dates for unemployment in October are October 1st, October 14th, and October 28th. Clara's unemployment benefits will be exhausted for the week of October 15th, and her last unemployment benefit check will be for $111 received on October 8th. So what is her best estimate for October for the unemployment benefit income? So we want to ask ourselves, this basically is terminated income. So it's unemployment benefits are about to expire. She's going to no longer be receiving those benefits. So we ask ourselves, will she receive a paycheck on every scheduled pay period in that month? Clara will. She's getting one on the 1st, the 14th, and the 28th. It doesn't matter that the 28th check is considerably less than the others. As long as she's receiving a check on every scheduled pay date, we know we're going to then average and convert that income. So we will add all 3 of these up. That totals the $1,059, divide it by the 3 checks, which gives us $353, and multiply that by our biweekly conversion because that's how often unemployment benefits pay out, which gives us $758.95. So even though it's unemployment, it's not earned income, it's unearned income, we're still going to ask ourselves that question. Will she receive a paycheck on every scheduled pay date that month? And if so, we're going to average and convert that. This is something that you need to pay attention to as well when we are looking at unemployment benefits. How much benefit do they have left? Are they going to expire? And then we need to act accordingly because that's known to you. You have access to that information. All right, so I put 2 case studies in this training as well, and both of them are actual cases pulled from the field, both of which were also QC errors. So we wanted to look at them just so that everyone can take a look at it and have a great reminder of how sometimes things aren't super easy. The income is a little wonky. We can create cases all day long and never create every single one that you come across. So when we do have these that pop up, it's really great for all of us to be able to use it kind of as a learning tool. So first one, the PI stated during the interview that he was out of work from April 9th through May 16th. The PI submitted pay stubs dated June 1st and June 15th. The worker called the employer to verify the gross amount of the June 29th pay stub. So we have 3 pay stubs for this individual. Those 3 pay stubs, the gross incomes for June 1st were $293.50. June 15th were $435.86, and June 29th were $447.88. So the worker in this case used all 3 of those, added them together, which came up with the $1177.24, divided it by 3, which gave us $392.41, and multiplied that by our biweekly conversion of 2.15, which gave us a total of $8.43.68. So what went wrong with this? This is the information. That's our best estimate calculation. What went wrong was that the PI stated that they had been off of work for medical reasons, and we have those dates. They were out. The pay period for that first check, the June 1st check, we need to look at the details for that because the pay period was May 13th through May 26th. Our PI was out of work for a portion of that pay period. Because of that information, that June 1st paycheck is not reflective of what they're going to continue to make. It's not a full paycheck for them. So what we needed to do was completely disregard that paycheck. Just use the two that are reflective, the June 15th and the June 29th. So add those two together, which gives us $883.74 divided by 2, which is $441.87. Multiply that by the biweekly conversion, which gives us $9.50.02. So, and because of that incorrect calculation, it did cause an overissuance of $39. So it's just paying attention to those details. I heard another instant message come through. Okay. Jill, I will get that answered for you. All right, so it's just really, for this one, it's an example of paying attention. I'm gonna lose my voice. Paying attention to those details, going with the information that we were told in the interview, and making sure that we're looking at all that information on the pay stub, including the pay periods. All right. Case study number 2. The PI submitted biweekly wage stubs showing that they receive a COM EXP bonus one time per month. Since this bonus income does happen on a regular basis, the worker was correct in that it should be included in the best estimate. So great job looking at the details on that and seeing that with the year to date, and then you talk to the client, how often does this happen? And then yes, we need to use that income. That was fantastic. However, the bonus income is paid out only once per month. So the calculation for this bonus income should actually be done separate from the wages, not just included with the gross wages and rolled through. So these are the pay stubs. So we have July 6th and the gross was $12.74.78. On this July 6th check, there was none of that COM EXP wages, but you can see with the year to date, that is $13.51. The worker also, which I would just like to point out, paid attention to all of the wages and that the overtime is reflective, and so we're going to include that overtime. That's all fantastic. So on the July 20th check, that's where we see $600 for that COM EXP income. So what we need to do with this is subtract that from the gross, which will give us our countable gross for this paycheck. And then we're going to go back and we'll do a completely separate best estimate for that income. So we're not disregarding the income. We're just going to do it in a separate best estimate since it doesn't happen on every paycheck, but it does happen regularly. So when we deduct that from the gross of $862, that gives us the countable best estimate for this pay stub, or countable gross, sorry, of $12.62. All right, and then we had a third with the gross of $12.44. We don't see that income on this third check because it's one check a month. All right, so the correct calculation for this would be to use the gross wages, the countable gross wages from all three of those checks. So July 6th, $12.74.78, July 20th, $12.62, and August 3rd, $12.44.36. Divide that total by 3 because we're using 3 paychecks, and then multiply that by our 2.15 biweekly conversion, which gives us $27.0982. So that's the best estimate for everything except for that COMM EXP income. Now we're gonna look at that separately. We use the year-to-date on that. That year-to-date covers 7 months of wages. So we'll take that year-to-date, divide it by the 7 months, which gives us an average of $278.71 per month that this individual is receiving for that specific COM-EXP bonus. And then just like the tips and just like our other example where we had that extra paycheck in the month, we're gonna add the wages plus that best estimate together, which gives us a total best estimate of $29.8853. All right, so some various income questions. First, what is the minimum needed to calculate income? We want to verify previous income by pay stubs or an employer statement when there is a 30-day history, but do not exceed a 60-day history, and document that in the narrative how the best estimate was calculated. If a client has 3 pay stubs and only one of them is reflective of future earnings, can we use just that one pay stub? We absolutely can. Just make sure that you document in the narrative why only one pay stub was used. So if our individual is paid biweekly and 3 pay stubs, only one of them is reflective, for whatever the reason may be, we'll use that one pay stub and multiply it by our biweekly conversion of 2.15 to give us our best estimate of income. And then just make sure that you really do a great narrative. You explain why those 2 pay stubs were not reflective, why you're excluding them, and how you use the one pay stub to come up with your best estimate calculation. All right, if a client reports that he or she starts a job in a few days and turns in a completed employer statement at the same time, do we use this or do we wait until they actually start the job? Normally, changes are not made until that change actually happens. If someone knows that their child is coming for the summer, we don't add that child until the child's actually there. However, in this case, this client has a offer of employment, they've been hired, we have the information, these are the hours they're going to work, when they will be getting paid, and all of that stuff. So we have everything we need. We can go ahead and use that employer statement and act on that change for income. All right, some final notes. Obtain wage stubs or wage history whenever possible. Gives you more information to look at. Verify a 30-day history, but do not exceed the 60 days. Compare the quarterly wage history on ESY-4 to the wages verified. That's going to tell you if this really is reflective of what they're actually making, because you can see what that history is on ESY-4. Document the case file indicating how the best estimate was calculated. Include your calculations and explanation of why a wage stub was or was not used. And both earned and unearned income must be considered in the best estimate. If the amount of income that will be received or when it will be received is uncertain, that portion of the household's income that is uncertain should not be counted. The best example that I can come up with for that is someone who's just been hired to be a substitute teacher for a school district. And so we have the employer statement, but the employer can't say how much they're going to be called in and actually working yet. They don't know until they know what teachers will be out and what needs to be covered. So in that case, we just have to narrate that really super well that it's uncertain, so we can't come up with the best estimate for it. What you do is make sure that you put that all in the narrative and then give them a short certification period and look at it again in 4 months. At that point, we have a good history and we can see on average what they're working, and then we can count that income for them. Make sure also to really stress the reporting responsibilities in that situation so that they know that should they be called in basically full-time, if that puts them over their gross income limit for their household size, that they need to report that to us. So, all right. Let me stop screen sharing here. So far, I really don't have any questions, which is awesome. So hopefully that's helpful. I think the big takeaways are really pay close attention to detail, really go through those pay stubs and wage histories with a fine-tooth comb, make sure things are adding up. If there is anything questionable, please follow through on that, follow up on it, call the employer, call the client, and get good information that you can use, and then make sure that you're also transferring all that knowledge about this into the narrative so that the next person looking at it knows exactly what's going on and why you took the actions that you did in that case. If you do have questions after this, send them to me. I'll get the Q&A put together and we'll send it out to the field for you. That's all we have for you today, so we're going to get you out of here early. Yay! I would like to say, hopefully, if you are traveling for the holidays or if you're staying home, have a very wonderful and safe holiday season, and Merry Christmas. Thank you for joining us.